right? We're like halfway. Is that exciting? Come on. And we got one more week and we got Thanksgiving. Wow, things are flying. It's going to be Christmas in no time. It's going to be awesome. Well, make sure that you put your phones away, guys.
Do you know where the rest of my kids are?
Just looking at cookies, huh? Hey, don't smell that. It probably smells like my breath. I did use some mouthwash for me, so maybe, I don't know how long that lasts. So anyways, make sure you put your phones away, please, guys, during the whole day. We're trying to respect that right. We're trying to do the thing, okay? Hey, let's settle down, baby. Good luck. We're excited, but we're also listening, right? Okay. So make sure that all your technology is away and that we do not see it for the rest of the day until you get to lunch, okay? All right, you ready? Ready to do this? Anybody? Yeah! All right, let's go. Come on, say it up. Waking up to another night. No more sorrow, no more. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. Running bright, living out of shame. Got a world to illuminate. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. You know this part, nothing. Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break darkness. We declare the kingdom's here. Because our God is for us. We're living in the promise. And we declare shadows stay as we now arrive. Hope is here with no end inside. You're the light, let it shine down, let it shine down. You're the light, let it shine down, let it shine down. Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break darkness. We declare the kingdom's here. Because our God is for us. We're living in the
your heart forever I'm on you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you're for me. You won't let go, you're won't let me down. I believe in you, and I know it's true. Won't let me down. Holding on to you, holding on to you. Holding on to God, no, you will never fail. I want all of you, you never change. Won't let me down. Love won't let me. When I need you, you listen as I pray. You lead and I love you. You bring the sky me promises of your grace. So I'll follow you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you are for me. You won't let go. Won't let me down. And I know it's true. I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you, holding on and I know you will never fail. I want all of you, you never change. Won't let me down. Your love won't let me. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. The sound of heaven start, peace awaits my heart. Holy, holy, the echoes of your grace changes everything. Holy, we're gonna sing ourselves into His presence. Hallelujah, creation sings. Sound of heaven start, rescued her. Holy, holy, earth is prayer, shines everywhere. Holy, we're gonna sing ourselves into your presence. Hallelujah. All creation sings.
there that loves you no matter what, that is a friend of the friendless and a hope to the hopeless. Just know that you are loved, you are taken care of, you are filled with grace, even though sometimes you don't feel it, because I don't always feel it, but you are filled with grace. You are filled with a love for a child, our Heavenly Father. So Solid Rock, I just pray that as we go about this weekend, as we go about our Friday, we have so much fun today, God. God, I pray as we go tonight to our football game that, God, you just keep everybody safe, free from injury, Lord. And that we just go about this weekend and the rest of our week just knowing that we are loved and that we can't be shaken by this world, because this world it's nothing compared to our God. God, we love you so much. Thank you. Thank you for being here for us. Thank you for sending your son to die. It's in your mighty name we pray. And Solid Rock said, Amen. Hey, real quick, guys, if you guys didn't know, today is our last football game. It is a home game against Time Company. Yeah, come on, put your hands together. Our boys have worked hard. We're already in Week 10. Seems like just yesterday we were in, just starting workouts in August, and it's November already. But today is our last game. Also, real quick, if you want to play basketball, today's the last day. We send out emails, we're talking to you guys at school. I submit rosters today, so if you're not on it today, I'm sorry, but so I feel like we have really good, solid 4 teams this year, JV girls included, first time ever. But if you are interested in playing, please come see me today. But again, please come out and support your boys tonight. Last home game, right down the street, 7 o'clock kickoff against Town and Country.
There's a decision I made a real long time ago. Should I be saving the world to the man? I don't think so, but my family's here to keep my feet on the ground. Holding so many directions I found. You gotta be flexible when a jet destroys your home. Be flexible, take so much relax syndrome. When the bad guys are swarming and it looks like they'll win, just change the shape you're in.
rules.
Do you really?
I really do. Do you like rules?
I do, you know, it depends on the rule, I guess. We gotta go behind the speaker, sorry guys, we're getting some feedback.
I can do that. I'm flexible.
Yeah, you got up there pretty quick, Carl.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that? Let's give him a hand clap.
They don't even know what I'm clapping about.
And flexibility. Love it, love that.
Let's go back to talking about rules.
Yes, okay.
How important the rules are. You gotta do this, you can't do that, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You guys hear that same thing from your parents that I heard from mine? Yeah, life hasn't changed a whole lot in that regard.
I just feel like sometimes like rules are a lot of I can't do things, you know?
I can't.
And maybe we could just reverse them, but I know we need them though.
Yeah.
There's no doubt we gotta have rules, but can we just say I can do this, and then we don't have to worry about the I can't, you know?
I like that. You like that?
Okay.
I like that. When it comes to rules though, think about it. What am I gonna say? Use your... Thank you. Some people are paying attention. There's a man a long time ago from the New Testament, and we will call him the Apostle Paul, so that we don't confuse him with Coach Paul, because Coach Paul wasn't alive back then. All right, the Apostle Paul, he grew up with rules. He was taught that he had to live his life a certain way, based on the church that he went to, and the people that he lived with, the city that he lived in. He had certain rules that he had to follow, and he was bound and determined to follow them to the end of his life. In fact, when he was a young man, still in school, there was a situation where there was another guy that was preaching about this new Savior called Jesus. And Paul, the Apostle Paul, as a young man, was standing around this circle of men that were throwing rocks at Stephen. Paul was guarding their coats because he wasn't old enough to throw the rocks yet. I mean, he's like, yes, because that guy's breaking the rules. We were told not to talk about this Jesus guy. So we're not going to do it. I'm going to follow those rules.
Yeah, so then he follows the rules for a long time, and he's killing Christians. He's killing these people that claim to believe in Christ, thinking that that was the right thing, and that was really kind of just, I mean, here's the thing, like, you gotta think about that. Like, it was literally, he felt like it was the right thing to do, what he was doing, but later on, we see him finally get kind of knocked off his horse, literally.
Yeah, really.
He's literally knocked off his horse. He's riding along, and all of a sudden he gets knocked off, and this light just blasts him, and he actually literally gets blinded by this light. Okay? And when he gets blinded by the light, all of a sudden a voice from heaven says, Saul, why do you persecute me?
Yeah, his name used to be Saul.
Yeah.
And so he, Saul, the Apostle Paul, actually had a letter in his pocket from the big bosses saying that it was okay for him to go to this next town and kill the Christians. So that was a rule, and he was going to follow it. But this voice said, Saul, why are you persecuting me?
Yeah. So he's just going along, doing his thing, doing what he thinks is right, and then all of a sudden, everything changes in that moment. Literally in that moment. So, if you have a voice from heaven speaking down to you saying, hey, look, you're killing my people, you might change the way you're doing things, right? Okay? Because I don't know about you, but I haven't had that happen. So, he goes and finds a man, I can't remember his name. It's
Ananias.
It's Ananias.
Yeah.
It was Ananias. And he, prays over Saul at that moment. And his sight comes back. He's blind until then. And his sight comes back. And then he spends 3 years of his life training and preparing himself for this new way. And here's the thing, he was trained, okay? He was well-trained, guys, and understand that he was very educated, he was a smart, intelligent man, and he was a leader. And all of a sudden now he's actually going back to the bottom of the totem pole, and he's having to learn again and completely change everything he thought. And I mean, talk about flexibility, right?
Yeah. He was bound and determined to follow the rules. Now there's a new set of rules. And he goes, out with the old, in with the new. So he gets all of this training and he's ready to go. So he starts going out and he plants all these churches. He didn't, dig a hole and throw seeds in and grew a church. No, he went and he started talking to the people in each of these cities that he was traveling to. And he's telling them about this Jesus who came to earth as the Son of God, who died for their sins. And people are like, who, what, when, where? Well, let me tell you all about it. And so he's telling them. And they're like, wait a minute, doesn't this go against your original beliefs? Because you went to that other church and now you're talking about this one. And he says, listen, man, I got to tell you, there's this whole new way of living. And it's so much easier than the other ways. Basically, all we have to do is love. That's the only commandment. Because if we truly love God and love each other, we're going to follow all those other rules without even thinking about it. So if you are going to be flexible enough to accept that there is a new way of doing things, rather than that old, straight, rigid way, then life can be pretty good for you, and the next life will be even better.
Yeah, that's good. Something I was thinking about, Carl, is the fact that you guys understand that don't think that Saul, now he's Paul, but don't think of Saul as he was doing the wrong thing in the beginning. Now, of course, killing Christians was wrong, no doubt. But before that, he was literally, he was training and learning about God. Okay? He was learning the laws of God. The laws of the very God that sent the Son of God to the earth. So he was on the right track. But here's the thing. God wasn't done with the story. And that was the situation. That was hard for a lot of these people, is they're confused. They're like, I don't get it. We're supposed to have this guy that's going to take over everything and all the Romans' persecution, everything that's happening. We're getting beat up by the Romans. That's not going to happen anymore. And this Son of God will come. The Messiah will come. And he's going to save, he's going to change it all. But it didn't happen that way, guys. Jesus didn't come to sit on a throne on this earth. And that's the thing. And here's the thing, again, we're learning that God's ways are not our ways, right? And like I'm saying, the story did not stop. Right? We weren't just going to continue having to sacrifice these lambs and all that stuff and doing the law. Jesus was the end of the story. And we have to understand, now of course the story continues, right? And we're a part of it. But the climax of the story, right? Where it all culminates, where it all comes together, is when Jesus comes. And when he dies and raises from the grave. When he came up, that's when everything changed. And now Paul is a part of this, right? And he was a huge part of it. And what's cool is that Paul wasn't your traditional Christian either. You look at the disciples, and really, he had to actually kind of influence the disciples when it came to saving people or bringing people to salvation outside of just the Jews. Okay? They thought, okay, well, God's people are the Jews, and that's the only ones that can be saved. The disciples were kind of caught up in this idea. But when Jesus came again, he didn't do it the way we thought. We thought a king was going to come, and the Jews would overtake everything, and they would rule. But that's not what happened. And now, even the Gentiles, as we call them, the people that weren't the Jews, God's saying, hey, come on in. Come on in. Because here's the thing. Think of it like a tree. Okay, you ever heard of a tree being pruned and grafted? You know what grafting is? So grafting is the idea that I'm going to take this beautiful tree that's producing this amazing fruit, and I'm going to cut that branch off, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it on another tree. I'm going to have to cut that branch and put it on that tree. And when we do that, an amazing thing happens. The very fruit that the good tree has is transferred to the new tree. And so if the Jews, remember the Jews rejected Jesus. Do you guys remember that? The Jews rejected Jesus. And because of that rejection, there was a cutoff. And it made an available space. It said, hey, there's space for not only the Jews, but the Gentiles as well. Okay, we'll just give you a little history here. Right? But that's the amazing thing, is that every single person in this room today, has the opportunity to live a life just like Paul did for the kingdom of God. And sometimes we got to be flexible. Sometimes we got to understand that God, what He was doing, just like you were saying, Carl, in the past, He might be changing that. And He might be doing it a little bit differently. But when it all comes down to it, from the point that Jesus died and rose again, now it's love. And now we love. And now we move in a place where it's no longer you're going to hell. It's let's pull you out. And let's bring you into heaven.
All of the disciples, Peter and John and Andrew and all that whole other list of guys, they all grew up in the same society and church that the Apostle Paul did. So these were the guys that were with Jesus for 3 years. And they were like living with Him, and they were traveling with Him, and they were learning at the feet of the Master. And they were learning all these new ways. But then after Jesus died, and then rose from the grave, and then went up to heaven, and left the disciples all on their own, that's when the Apostle Paul comes into the picture. And after he got saved, and he goes to these other disciples and says, hey guys, I'm on your side now. And they're like, fantastic, that's great, but only preach to the Jews. And he says, no, man, this is going to go out to everybody. Nobody is excluded. Everybody can love God and can accept Jesus. And these disciples, Peter and John and James and them, they're like, I don't think that's what we're supposed to do. Jesus set us up to, to go to the synagogues where our people are at. And Paul just said, well, you do your thing and I'm going to do my thing. And so he went off. And later on, Peter, one of the disciples, he met up with the Apostle Paul. And together, they were preaching to everybody. And they were welcoming everybody into the family of God. And they had to be a little bit flexible because these other people that were the Gentiles, they had different routines, different cultural traditions about things that they could eat and things that they didn't have to worry about doing. And then where they came from, the Jews, they had a little bit more strict, rigid guidelines. And so when Paul and Peter were with the Gentiles, they were flexible. Okay, well, I grew up not doing these things, but you're okay. For instance, let me bring it to a modern day setting for you. My church, when I grew up, did not like dancing. In fact, if you even did a little bit of this while you were on the platform, they started praying for your salvation because, oh no, he's moving his feet to the beat. He's committing a sin. I mean, I laugh at that now, but back then, that was some serious stuff. That's the way that I was raised. And when I grew up and I realized there's nothing wrong with moving my feet to the feel of the beat. I can get down with that. All right, so I can be a little bit flexible. It doesn't mean that I have turned my back on the church. Although some of the old saints at my church may think that. But just because something is a little bit different doesn't mean that it's wrong. Now again, what did I say at the beginning? Think about it first, use your kidneys. Don't be silly and make poor decisions. But if somebody happens to be a little bit different than you, be flexible about it. Think, does this affect their salvation? Does it affect my salvation, my relationship with God? If it doesn't, then it's okay. That's their business.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. Let's talk about how we can kind of relate to that. Think about anybody gone to a friend's house and had dinner with them, and they had something a little wild and crazy, or something that you've never had, and you're like, I don't really eat that, right? And you're hesitant. You're like, I really don't want to eat that. In your mind, you're just saying, oh, please don't make me eat that. Please don't make me. But here's the thing. if you want to honor the parents or the family that has made this meal, not only for them but for you as well, you're going to bite in, right? And maybe you don't like it. Maybe you actually do. Okay. You gotta try new things because it might taste good. Sorry, Daniel Tiger coming to my mind because I have little children. Anyways, so you try the food, maybe you don't like it, but you just, hey, yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much for this food. But you're honoring the people and the place that you're in, right? And there's something special about that. And I know, sometimes we don't want to do that. But there's something really beautiful about it. And it's the same thing that was happening with Paul. Paul's going into these other places, these other cultures, and he's realizing that a lot of the other Christians are struggling with, okay, well, they're doing this, and we do this, and you can't do this, and there's a lot of, like we were talking in the beginning, rules. And rules are great. But, right, you learn to flex, and you gotta learn to flex. And I just keep hearing flexibility over and over in this story today. Look at Paul. Paul had to flex. He thought he knew what was going on. He didn't. He flexed and it changed. We look at Peter. Peter thought he knew everything and all that he needed to do. Then Paul came to the picture and completely changed that. Paul's flexing over there. He changed everything, right? And so Peter said, all right, wait, that's wrong. I'm freaking out. But then he flexed and he said, you know what? I think this is God. And I think that's the moral of the story, is that we have to understand that sometimes God's going to change it up on us. But if we're not willing to listen, if we're not willing to go into that house and just say, hey, I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to just pretend like I enjoyed it, even if I don't, I'm just going to honor those people. Right? There's something that changes in us. And sometimes we need that change, guys. Listen, I just want to tell you this. Okay? I don't have it all figured out. Okay? I ask Siri every day, what is the meaning of life? And she doesn't give me anything. Okay? But I'm slowly, through situations, circumstances, and even problems that I face, I'm learning to flex. And I'm learning that, hey, wait, I thought I knew what I knew, but now it's a little bit different. And sometimes God has to take you through things. Okay, and it's unfortunate, and it's not always easy, right? Just like at school, like there's things that you don't want to do, right? But sometimes you got to face those situations in order to figure out who you are and what you're about. And you got to learn how to flex to it. Okay, think of water. Think of water and how it flexes. It has an amazing ability to flex to really anything that it does, right? Think about like it going through a pipe. That pipe might go like this and that, right? And a normal, like hard substance isn't going to be able to go through that pipe, right? It's going to stop right there. It's going to be done. But water just is able to flow. There's a fluidity to it. And it's the same thing with us, okay? There are times when we got to stand strong. There's times when we got to say, hey, this is what I believe, and this is what I know, and I'm going to stand on it. But then there's also other times where we say, look, it might not be the way I want it to be. And it might not be the perfect situation, but for now and in this moment, I feel like this is where I need to be. I gotta flex in that pipe, right? I gotta move through the pipe. Because the end process is what God is pushing us toward. We don't ever want to stop. Don't ever stop. Okay? Don't ever stop. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for who you are in our lives. And Lord, I know that there's some situations that some students in this room today are facing. And they're not easy. And it doesn't make sense. And the reality of it, Lord, is slapping them in the face, God. But Lord, even as I was worshiping this morning, and I feel like I'm in a good place, Lord, I realize that I have to worship no matter what situation I'm facing. And knowing that even in the highs, I'm going to worship you, I'm going to praise you, I'm going to lift you up. And even in the lows, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to do it all the time. Because, Lord, that's what gets our heart in the right place, to be like water and be able to flex the way we need to flex, Lord. So, Lord, whatever we're facing today, whether it makes sense or it doesn't, Lord, We give it to you. Because Lord, it says in your Bible, says it in your word, it says, cast all your cares upon me. So today we cast our cares on you, just like you asked us to do. You said, I want to take them. So Lord, take them today. And we thank you that the outcome, Lord, the end of this process that we're in right now, it will be a good outcome. And we'll find the light at the end of the tunnel, Lord. So Lord, bring hope, bring peace, bring healing to those that need healing, Lord, and restoration to those that need to be restored. Make us new again, Lord. Just like Peter and Paul that we talked about today, that we would be willing to flex and grow into the people that you created us to be, Lord, because you are the potter and we are the clay. So we're going to flex to your hand, Lord, as you mold and form us into what you've called us to be, Lord. We thank you, and we pray safety and covering as we go out today, and that we would just enjoy today, that we would be present in every moment, whatever we're doing, and that we would grow and grow and grow every day. We pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning, Solid Rock. How are we doing today? Happy Friday. Now I know our character training was 2 weeks long, so we have some new shout-outs of those students exhibiting flexibility the second week. So I want to recognize those students right now, and then we do have a special announcement to make. So our first shout-out goes to Kevin Hill from Dr. D for being flexible when it came to sharing in front of the class. Our next one from Ms. Sharon is from Maddox Lamp for going with the flow and having an awesome attitude. And unfortunately, Max is out today. From Mr. Alex to Alex Marcus for being helpful in class at the end of each class. From Mr. John for Jelena Perini for always being flexible to do whatever activity is asked of her and flexible enough to run any topic. From Miss Nicole for Devin Lassiter. Devin's always willing to go with the flow to change the class routine when necessary. And our last one this week is from Miss Karen for Chase Garecki. In our art workshop last Friday, Chase did not want to do canvas painting, but after a short bit of grumbling, he sat down, did it anyway, ended up liking it, having fun with it, and making a beautiful painting. He made a